Chapter 1844. It was an absolute saint weapon. When it exploded, the terrifying power engulfed the middle-aged man. Chaotic Calamity Finger. At the same time, Lu Ming pointed with his finger. This time, Lu Ming used all of his strength. The middle-aged man was already heavily injured and on the verge of death. Now that he was suddenly attacked by the explosion of a saint weapon and the full-powered attack of the chaotic tribulation finger, he was unable to resist at all. His body exploded and his soul dispersed. After Lu Ming attacked with the chaotic calamity finger, Bubble immediately used the space-time law. Lu Ming's body became illusory again. Damn it, kill! Ouyang Wudao roared, his eyes emitting cold killing intent. A terrifying attack crushed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming dared to snatch his mark. He was courting death. But when the attack landed, Lu Ming's body dissipated like a phantom. In the next moment, he was outside the battlefield. And there was another mark in his crystal ball. Everything just happened too quickly. Lu Ming asked Bubble to help and suddenly appeared on the battlefield. With lightning speed, he exploded an absolute saint weapon and attacked with the chaotic calamity finger. Then, with Bubble's help, he retreated. All of this happened in an instant. However, at this moment, Lu Ming had already killed the middle-aged burly man and obtained the mark. Kid, you're courting death. Ouyang Wudao roared and stepped on the void, charging toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming dared to snatch food from the tiger's mouth and steal his mark. He was courting death. The others followed Ouyang Wudao and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. Under the spatial fluctuation, Lu Ming's body appeared in the distance again, near Ouyang Wushuang and the others. I got the mark. Let's go. Lu Ming said. Everyone rose into the air and flew into the distance. Ouyang Wushuang, get back here. Ouyang Wudao shouted in a commanding tone. It was as if he told Ouyang Wushuang to get back here, he would get back here. Ridiculous. Ouyang Wushuang's voice was filled with disdain as he flew forward at full speed. All 12 seals have appeared. The test is over. Come out now. At this moment, a voice rang out in everyone's ears. It was the voice of an elder from the Xinyuan Empire. All 12 seals have appeared. Damn it! Ouyang Wudao stopped and roared. His eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent. He only had 4 imprints on his hand, which was exactly 1/3 of the total. This number was still very dangerous. If either Ouyang Wushuang or Ouyang Wuji had 5 marks, he would have lost. If each person had 4 seals, it would only be a draw. What he wanted was not a tie, but first place. This made him hate Lu Ming and Ouyang Wushuang even more. If he had gotten that mark just now, he would have had 5 marks and would have taken the initiative. Now, he could only hope for 12 marks, 4 for each person. Only then would he have a chance. It's over. Let's go out. Ouyang Wushuang and the others flew outside. We have 5 seals. Our chances of winning are very high. A Skypride from the Purple Flame Villa laughed. 5 seals. Their chances of winning were indeed high. As long as Ouyang Wuji had 3 seals, Ouyang Wudao would only have 4 and they would win. The position of Crown Prince would belong to Ouyang Wushuang. They quickly flew outside. Ouyang Wudao brought his men and flew outside with a gloomy face. However, they met Ouyang Wuji and the Skyprides from the One Sanctum on the way. At this moment, Ouyang Wuji's face was ugly. He knew that he had lost and had no chance of winning the position of Crown Prince. Ouyang Wuji, how many seals did you get? Ouyang Wudao looked at Ouyang Wuji nervously. He hoped that Ouyang Wuji had also gotten 4 seals. This round would be a draw. 3. Ouyang Wuji said, which made Ouyang Wudao's face turn pale. Ouyang Wuji had 3 seals. That meant that Ouyang Wushuang had 5 seals and won first place. Ouyang Wushuang had won 2 rounds in a row. There was no need for the next round. the position of crown prince would belong to Ouyang Wushuang. Damn it! Ouyang Wudao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. It was all Lu Ming's fault. If he had not taken action and snatched the last mark, he would have been the winner. At this moment, he hated Lu Ming to the core. Ouyang Wudao, why don't we team up? Ouyang Wuji said with a sharp light in his eyes. It would not be easy for Ouyang Wushuang to win the position of crown prince. Team up? What's the use of that? Ouyang Wushuang has won 2 rounds in a row. He has won. Ouyang Wudao said unwillingly. Not necessarily. Ouyang Wuji smiled faintly. He then waved his hand and an old man appeared. There is a seal on this man, but I did not kill him. I will leave him to you now. Ouyang Wuji said. Ouyang Wudao's eyes lit up and emitted a bright light. He never thought that Ouyang Wuji would leave one person alive. What do you want from me? Ouyang Wudao asked. Nothing. I just don't want Ouyang Wushuang to win the position of crown prince. Ouyang Wuji said coldly. Since he had no hope, Ouyang Wushuang would not get it either. Swoosh! Ouyang Wudao stepped forwards and punched the old man, killing him instantly. In a flash, he had 5 imprints on his side. Great, ha! Ouyang Wudao was overjoyed. In this way, he and Ouyang Wushuang would be tied in this round. Then, they would have to fight in the 3rd round. If he won first place in the 3rd round and Ouyang Wushuang was last, the position of crown prince would be his. Then, we will let Ouyang Wushuang be last in the 3rd round. Ouyang Wuji said coldly. Ha, 6th brother, I will not forget you when I take over the Xinyuan Empire. Ouyang Wudao laughed. Then, the group flew out. When they came out of the Blood Soul sect, they found that Ouyang Wushuang and the rest had arrived. Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wuji glanced at Ouyang Wushuang and Lu Ming, exuding a cold murderous intent. Alright, everyone is here. Take out your crystal balls and see what you have gained. An elder said. Lu Ming and the rest nodded and took out their crystal balls. Ouyang Wushuang had 3 seals and Lu Ming had 2. A total of 5 seals. 5 seals, not bad. The elder nodded and looked at Ouyang Wudao and the rest. Ouyang Wudao and the rest took out their crystal balls. 5 seals too. Ouyang Wushuang and the rest were shocked. They did not expect Ouyang Wudao to have 5 seals. Ouyang Wuji had 2. Damn it, why is Ouyang Wuji so useless? He only got 2. Someone in the Purple Flame Villa muttered. Chapter 1845. What did you say? Ouyang Wuji heard that and looked at the Purple Flame Villa's Skypride coldly. However, how could the Purple Flame Villa's Skypride be afraid of him? He sneered at Ouyang Wuji. Ouyang Wuji's face turned even uglier. You guys can be smug. I'll make sure you die miserably in the 3rd round. Ouyang Wuji cursed in his heart. Alright, Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wushuang tied in this round. You guys can go back and rest. The 3rd round will begin in 7 days. An elder announced. Then, they took out a warship and boarded it. Half a day later, they returned to Xinyuan Empire. After returning to Ouyang Wushuang's residence, Ouyang Wushuang set up a banquet as a reward. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone went back to their own homes. Lu Ming went back to his room and entered the mountain river diagram. My cultivation base is about to break through. Lu Ming smiled. He had broken through to the Great Sage realm for quite some time. Now, his cultivation base was about to break through again. Immediately, Lu Ming took out a large number of origin stones and placed them on the side. Then, he sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. 3 days later, Lu Ming's aura skyrocketed. A powerful suction force came from his body. The origin stones exploded and turned into billowing origin chi that rushed into Lu Ming's body. Half a day later, Lu Ming's aura finally calmed down. Great Sage, greater mastery. Lu Ming smiled. His cultivation base had broken through to the great sage greater mastery, and his combat strength had increased by another level. He was more confident about the third round. Then, Lu Ming continued to cultivate and consolidate his cultivation base. In the blink of an eye, the third round of the assessment had arrived. This time, they gathered in a spacious area outside Xinyuan imperial capital. There was a mountain in front of them. It was tens of thousands of feet tall and towered into the clouds. At the peak of the mountain, there was a large flag that fluttered in the wind. Ouyang Wudao, Ouyang Wushuang, Ouyang Wuji, and the others stopped 1,000 miles away from the mountain. The third round of the assessment is very simple. It's to seize the military flag. Whoever can seize the military flag will be the champion. In this process, you can use any means. An elder announced. Everyone's eyes flickered. Any means could be used. In other words, killing was not prohibited in this round. Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wuji's eyes flashed with cold killing intent as they swept their gaze over Lu Ming, Ouyang Wushuang, and the others. However, on the way from here to the top of the mountain, many formations have been set up. It won't be a smooth journey. Alright, now, each of you will stand in 3 positions. The elder announced. Immediately, figures flashed, and the 3 groups of people stood in 3 different positions. Miss Autumn Moon, I'll leave Lu Ming to you later. It's best if you can kill him. At this moment, Ouyang Wuji sent a message to Autumn Moon. I'm here to help you seize the crown prince position, not to help you kill people. Autumn Moon said coldly. Lu Ming has repeatedly opposed us. Otherwise, this prince would not have ended up like this. Since you are here to help me, why don't you listen to me this time? That Lu Ming must die. Ouyang Wuji said coldly. Autumn Moon's brows furrowed. Junior sister Chiuyue, the 6th prince is right. Lu Ming doesn't respect the one only sanctuary at all. Not only did he injure a few of our junior brothers, but he also completely disrupted the one only sanctuary's plan. If we let him off, we won't be able to answer to the elders when we return. Yuji said. That's right, junior sister Autumn Moon. Among us, you're the strongest. You can kill that Lu Ming. The others from the One Sanctum also spoke. Alright, leave that Lu Ming to me. Autumn Moon pondered for a moment and nodded. Ouyang Wuji and the others were ecstatic. Let's begin. At this moment, the elder's voice sounded. Let's go. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as the elder's voice fell, the 3 groups of people rushed out at the same time. With their cultivation, 1,000 miles was covered in the blink of an eye. But just as they rushed out, dense inscriptions appeared in the sky. Rays of sword light formed and slashed toward Lu Ming and the others. Every ray of sword light was extremely terrifying. It had the power of a supreme saint, and there were a lot of them. There were hundreds of them when they appeared. Lu Ming and the rest had no choice but to slow down. They launched a series of attacks to destroy the sword gleams. But in the void, there were endless inscriptions. There were all kinds of rattans, flames, and lightning attacks that blasted toward them. This greatly slowed their speed. They joined forces to break through the attacks and flew forward. Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wuji were also attacked by the array, and their speed was greatly reduced. However, it could only slow them down. The power of the array was not enough to pose a threat to them. The 3 groups of people were like 3 owls, flying toward the mountain at an extremely fast speed. Among them, Ouyang Wudao's group was the fastest. Ouyang Wudao had the help of the genius of the Daluo Heaven sect, and his overall strength was indeed stronger. Stop them! Suddenly, Ouyang Wuji and the others changed their direction and rushed toward Lu Ming and the others. All kinds of terrible attacks poured toward Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others fought back and defeated the attacks one by one. But in this way, their footsteps were blocked, and Ouyang Wudao's group was constantly approaching the mountain. Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wuji have joined forces. Lu Ming's voice came out. Obviously, Ouyang Wuji had come to delay Lu Ming and the others so that Ouyang Wudao could get the first place. Ouyang, let's rush out. Lu Ming transmitted a message to Ouyang Wushuang. Go! Ouyang Wushuang shouted and struck out dozens of palms. The terrible palm power broke through the attacks, rushed out of the encirclement, and rushed toward the mountain. Lu Ming punched out and a vacuum passage appeared in the void, breaking all the attacks. So powerful! Ouyang Wuji and the others' faces changed greatly. Lu Ming seemed to be stronger. Whoosh! Lu Ming moved and dashed out as well. Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the Sky Prides of the Purple Flame Villa did not move and fought with Ouyang Wuji's group. Stop them! Ouyang Wuji shouted. Whoosh! A beam of white light rushed out. As the white light rushed past, even the space was frozen. A terrifying cold current rushed toward Lu Ming. It was a white scimitar. Lu Ming activated the suppressing Hell Heaven skill and punched the scimitar. The scimitar shook and was sent flying. A white light flashed and a figure appeared in front of Lu Ming. Autumn Moon. Lu Ming's eyes darkened. Ice Seal. Autumn Moon waved her hand and the scimitar danced, emitting a more terrible cold current, slashing toward Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming punched out again. A majestic force bombarded the scimitar and sent it flying again. However, a terrible cold current spread up Lu Ming's arm, causing a layer of frost to appear on Lu Ming's arm. Chapter 1846. Yin Yang. Autumn Moon shouted. At this moment, the cold chi on her body suddenly converged on one side of her body, while the other side emitted a blazing chi. At the same time, a fiery red machete flew out, releasing a terrifying heat wave that distorted the space. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two machetes, one emitting cold chi and the other emitting blazing chi, slashed towards Lu Ming at the same time. The cold and blazing chi collided with each other, producing a terrifying energy that blasted towards Lu Ming. This energy was extremely terrifying and had the power to destroy, which made Lu Ming feel a sense of crisis. Chaotic Finger of Calamity. Lu Ming pointed his finger and hit the energy. Suddenly, there was a crackling sound. The two machetes were repelled by Lu Ming, but Lu Ming also felt his fingers go numb. A destructive force was about to annihilate him. If Lu Ming's cultivation had not broken through to the great sage great mastery, he was afraid that he would be defeated. Superior heavenly spiritual body, and the law of yin yang of the sovereign Tao. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Autumn Moon was indeed the one and only sovereign Tao expert who had brought her here from the divine wilderness. Her talent and potential were extremely shocking. Not only did she control the law of sovereign Tao, her spiritual body was also a superior heavenly spiritual body, and her cultivation had reached the great sage great perfection. Her combat strength was stronger than Ouyang Wushuang and Ouyang Wudao. Ouyang Wushuang, Long Chen, and Huang Ling also had such talent, but their cultivation had not reached the great sage great perfection. Yin-yang convergence. Autumn Moon shouted as two chi streams emitted from her body, one cold and one hot, one yin and one yang. They collided with each other, forming a terrifying destructive force. Autumn Moon, I am Lu Ming, your young master. You said that you would serve me for the rest of your life. Have you forgotten? Lu Ming's shout was like thunder in spring, ringing in Autumn Moon's ears. Autumn Moon frowned and shouted, "Shameless man, are you trying to trick me again? Can't you try something new? Kill!" The two scimitars spun at an extremely fast speed, like a storm, strangling towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's glabella glowed, and the Tai Chi disc appeared. A Tai Chi yin-yang fish pattern was formed, and it pressed down on Autumn Moon. Boom! Boom! The Tai Chi diagram collided with the two scimitars, producing a dull boom. At the same time, Lu Ming punched out like the wind, dispersing the terrifying destructive airflow. When Lu Ming and Autumn Moon collided, Ouyang Wushuang also encountered a strong enemy. Ouyang Wudao rushed towards Ouyang Wushuang. The two of them were locked in battle. Ouyang Wushuang controlled King Dao Law, so his talent was a notch higher. However, Ouyang Wudao's cultivation was stronger, so the two of them were evenly matched. But the geniuses of the Daluo Heaven sect rushed towards the mountain. Bubbles, go get that flag. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bubble. Leave it to me, chirp chirp. Bubbles flew out from Lu Ming's shoulder. Her petite figure flickered, and she rushed towards the mountain. Those formations were almost useless against Bubbles. After a while, Bubbles almost caught up with the geniuses of the Daluo Heaven sect. How could it be? Is that the law of time and space? Stop her! The geniuses of the Daluo Heaven sect exclaimed. Then, 2 or 3 geniuses rushed towards Bubbles. All kinds of attacks poured towards Bubbles. Chirp chirp, Bubbles' body flickered, and the space rippled. When those attacks fell, Bubbles had already disappeared. The next moment, she swept past those geniuses and rushed towards the mountain. No, the law of time and space is too strange. We can't attack her at all. Someone shouted anxiously. Everyone, cut off the void with the law and stop her. Bai Mu shouted and suddenly changed his direction. The terrible power of law bloomed, covering the sky and confining the void with the power of law. More than a dozen geniuses also took action at the same time. All kinds of laws, like chains, confined the void. Bubbles' body flickered, but the void was confined. She couldn't rush over for a while. I'm changing to another side, Bubbles' childish voice sounded. She moved and wanted to rush over in another direction. But there were too many geniuses, and most of them were in the exceptional Great Saint realm. More than a dozen of them joined forces and confined all directions with the law, completely blocking Bubbles' way. Let's join forces and take her down. Bai Mu ordered. The power of law broke out. More than a dozen geniuses joined forces to take Bubbles down. Bubbles' body flickered, and the space around her flickered. It was not so easy for them to take Bubbles down. For a while, the two sides were in a deadlock. And the battle between Lu Ming and Autumn Moon was getting more and more intense. Autumn Moon, have you forgotten Li Ping and Lu Yuntian? Have you forgotten the Lu family? Lu Ming shouted as he attacked, hoping to awaken the memory of Autumn Moon. Shut up! Autumn Moon shouted. Her frown deepened. The law of yin and yang represented the foundation of heaven and earth. Even among the law of kings, it was extremely terrifying. The collision of the cold current and the scorching heat produced a terrifying energy that surged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming threw out 3 punches in a row, blocking Autumn Moon's attack. Autumn Moon, have you forgotten the Mystic Essence Sword Sect? Have you forgotten the Blazing Sun Empire? Autumn Moon, have you forgotten Yuehuan Mountain and Jadeite Lake? Lu Ming kept shouting. He told Autumn Moon about the things she was most familiar with and experienced. Autumn Moon's eyes kept changing. She seemed to be trying to catch something. But she couldn't seem to catch it. Nonsense. I'll kill you. Autumn Moon shouted. 2 scimitars slashed toward Lu Ming. If you want to kill me, I'll let you kill me. At this moment, Lu Ming put away the Taiji disc and the law of primal chaos, allowing the 2 scimitars to slash at him. The 2 scimitars were about to hit Lu Ming, but Lu Ming still didn't move. He looked at Autumn Moon with gentle eyes. The way he looked at Autumn Moon was the same as before. At this moment, Autumn Moon's heart skipped a beat. She subconsciously retracted her force. But the 2 scimitars were too fast. Although she had retracted most of her force, they still didn't stop and slashed Lu Ming's shoulder. Puff! Puff! Blood flowed. The 2 scimitars stabbed into Lu Ming's shoulder, penetrating his bones. Blood dyed Lu Ming's robe red. Autumn Moon was stunned. She looked at Lu Ming and said, why didn't you dodge? Why should I dodge? You and I have been together for more than 10 years. If you want to kill me, I'll let you kill me. I just want you to remember. Lu Ming said gently. Everything you said, is it true? Autumn Moon's eyes were full of doubts and confusion. Of course it's true. I'm Lu Ming, your young master. You and I have been together for more than 10 years. The jade pendant you are wearing was given to you by my mother. Do you still remember? Lu Ming said gently. Clang! Clang! The two scimitars flew out of Lu Ming's shoulder and disappeared into Autumn Moon's body. Chapter 1847. Lu Ming, young master, the Lu family, madam, why? Why can't I remember? Why? Qiu Yu murmured to herself. Her eyes became more and more blank, and finally, she showed a painful expression. Why? Why? I'm going to ask my master, I'm going to ask my master. Qiu Yu suddenly shouted. She rushed up to the sky, broke through layers of formation, and left in a flash. Junior sister, damn it, Yu Ji from the only sanctum shouted angrily. Qiu Yu, I'll find out what happened to you. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. The wound on his shoulder was wriggling and recovering quickly. Qiu Yu took away most of her power, so the injury was not serious. With the strength of Lu Ming's spiritual body, it was basically healed in a few breaths. Lu Ming looked in Bubbles' direction. He took a step forward and dashed toward Bubbles at lightning speed. Inscriptions emerged, and attacks were launched at Lu Ming. But they were all broken by Lu Ming. Get out of my way. Lu Ming approached Lu Ming. He operated the chaotic finger and pointed out. A huge finger crushed toward the talents of the Daluo Heaven sect with amazing momentum. Several talents of the Daluo Heaven sect joined forces to resist, but they were still not enough and were blown away by Lu Ming. As such, the encirclement was broken, and Bubble rushed out of the encirclement in a flash. Bubble, you go and get the flag. Leave these people to me. Lu Ming said. Okay. Bubble flashed and rushed to the top of the mountain. Stop him. Bai Mu shouted. Your opponent is me. Lu Ming stepped out and appeared in front of them. He operated the prison-suppressing skill, and shadows of the prison-suppressing steel emerged and suppressed the talents of the Daluo Heaven sect. Boom! Boom! Each of Lu Ming's strikes was as heavy as millions of caddies, with the power to suppress the heavens. The geniuses of the Daluo Heaven sect were all blown away, with blood spilling from their mouths. Kill! Bai Mu charged towards Lu Ming with a terrifying aura. Bai Mu's spiritual body was a superior heaven spiritual body. His combat power was far above that of other prodigies of the same level. Prodigies like Wan Jingyang, Mo Lang, and the second prince of the Golden Crow would probably be easily defeated by Bai Mu. Lu Ming might not have been able to defeat Bai Mu before his breakthrough. However, a few days ago, Lu Ming had made a breakthrough in his cultivation and his battle prowess had greatly increased. After exchanging a few blows with Bai Mu's body trembled and he could not help but retreat 7 or 8 steps. The Son of Chaos battle prowess is indeed astonishing. Bai Mu's eyes were filled with shock. Again. Lu Ming kept punching with his fists, and the illusory images of the prison-suppressing steel appeared one after another. They suppressed the geniuses of the Daluo Heaven sect and blocked their way. Bubbles' figure flickered and was about to fly to the peak of the mountain. No, Ouyang Wudao roared and his eyes turned red. He could not accept the fact. Ouyang Wuji was about to vomit blood. He did not expect that he and Ouyang Wudao together could not stop Ouyang Wushuang. They were extremely unwilling, but they could not stop Bubble. They could only watch as Bubble quickly approached the flag. Bubble grabbed the flag with both hands and pulled it up. Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wuji's hearts sank. Great! Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the prodigies of the Purple Flame Villa were overjoyed. With the flag in hand, this round of competition was over. Everyone retreated and stopped the competition. Ouyang Wudao's eyes were extremely gloomy as he looked at Lu Ming and Bubble. In the second and third rounds of the assessment, he had completely lost to Lu Ming and Bubble. If it were not for them, Ouyang Wushuang would not have been his match. He did not know that the first round was actually Lu Ming's idea. Otherwise, he would have vomited blood. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the sky, several elders of the Xinyuan Empire appeared, and the grand array of this area was concealed. The assessment is over. Based on the results of the 3 rounds, Ouyang Wushuang is first. 3 days later, he will be crowned as the crown prince. An elder announced. Ouyang Wudao and Ouyang Wuji clenched their fists tightly. From now on, they would be trampled under Ouyang Wushuang's feet. Then, everyone returned to their respective mansions. Ouyang Wushuang's mansion was naturally filled with celebration, and a banquet was held continuously for 3 days. 3 days later, the Xinyuan Empire held the Crown Prince coronation ceremony. The Purple Flame Villa and the Soul Sage Palace sent people to congratulate, except for the Daluo Heaven sect. After the ceremony, Ouyang Wushuang was officially crowned as the Crown Prince. Lu Ming and the rest had achieved their initial goal. But now, Lu Ming had another goal, which was to find out what had happened to Autumn Moon. How could he restore Autumn Moon? Therefore, on the 7th day after Ouyang Wushuang was crowned as the Crown Prince, Lu Ming and Ouyang Wushuang went to the Soul Sage Palace together. The Soul Sage Palace was an ancient palace, suspended in the sky, surrounded by clouds and mist, like a fairyland. There was a flight of stairs that stretched down from the Soul Sage Palace, and there were at least tens of thousands of steps. Lu Ming and Ouyang Wushuang landed on the stairs and stepped up. Soon, they had climbed tens of thousands of steps, but were stopped by 2 people at the top of the stairs. Who are you? The Soul Sage Palace is not to be disturbed. The 2 people were gatekeepers. One of them spoke, emitting a strong aura. I'm Ouyang Wushuang. I have something to ask of Senior Bing Mu. Ouyang Wushuang cupped his fists. Bing Mu was the master of Autumn Moon, the person who brought Autumn Moon from the divine wilderness. Ouyang Wushuang. So it's the Crown Prince of Xinyuan. Sorry for the disrespect. The 2 gatekeepers' faces changed. If it was an ordinary prince of the Xinyuan Empire, they could ignore him, but the Crown Prince was different. He was going to rule the Xinyuan Empire in the future and become an overlord. His status was completely different from ordinary princes. Please wait for a moment, Crown Prince. I'll pass on the message right away. One of the gatekeepers said. Wait, don't let them in. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Then, a few figures walked out from the depths of the palace. Yu Ji, Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. The leader of the few people who came out was Yu Ji, and the others were extraordinary sky prides. The 2 gatekeepers bowed to Yu Ji and the others. It was obvious that Yu Ji's status in the Soul Sage Palace was not low. Oh, it's Crown Prince Wushuang. What are you doing in the Soul Sage Palace? Yu Ji asked with a faint smile on his face. Lu Ming and I are here to pay a visit to Senior Bing Mu. Ouyang Wushuang controlled his temper and repeated it again. Pay a visit to Supreme Elder Bing Mu? I advise you to go back. Supreme Elder Bing Mu is not someone you can meet as you wish. Yu Ji said indifferently. You can pass on the message. Senior Bing Mu will decide whether to meet us or not. Lu Ming said. Pass on the message? Who do you think you are? I'm telling you, Supreme Elder Bing Mu is in seclusion and will not meet anyone. Leave! Yu Ji's face darkened and scolded. If Senior Bing Mu is not free today, I'll come again tomorrow. If he's not free tomorrow, I'll come again the day after tomorrow. One day, Senior Bing Mu will be free. Chapter 1848. Lu Ming, why are you so thick-skinned? Don't think I don't know what you're here for. You want to take the opportunity to get close to junior sister Autumn Moon. Let me tell you, junior sister Autumn Moon is already taken. Don't bother her anymore. Yu Ji berated. Lu Ming frowned. He had already been patient and spoke nicely, but the other party was deliberately making things difficult for him. Bang! Lu Ming suddenly took a step forward, and an overwhelming aura pressed down on Yu Ji. Yu Ji's expression changed drastically, and he roared, What are you trying to do? You want to barge into the soul's sacred palace? How dare you? Men, kill this person. During the Xinyuan Empire's assessment, he had repeatedly suffered at the hands of Lu Ming, and had long harbored hatred in his heart. Now that there was an opportunity, he naturally wanted to seize it and kill Lu Ming. As Yu Zhi's voice sounded, several powerful auras erupted from the soul's sacred palace, and several figures flew out, breaking through the air, and flew over. Each figure was surrounded by a large river, which was the river of law. These figures were all quasi-emperors. Stop! At this moment, a voice sounded in everyone's ears, full of supreme majesty. Yu Zhi, the few youths, and the quasi-emperors all had a change in expression. They stopped, bowed toward the depths of the soul's sacred palace, and said, "Supreme Elder Bing Mu. Bring Lu Ming in to see me." That voice sounded again. Yu Zhi's expression changed slightly. It seemed that Supreme Elder Bing Mu knew about the situation here. "Kid, you're lucky today." Yu Zhi coldly transmitted his voice to Lu Ming, and then stepped away. "Young Master Lu Ming, please come with me. Supreme Elder Bing Mu wants to see you." One of the gatekeepers said. "Ouyang, you go back first. No need to wait for me." Lu Ming said to Ouyang Wushuang. "There's no hurry, I can wait here." Ouyang Wushuang smiled faintly. He was afraid that something would happen to Lu Ming after he entered. With him, the crown prince of the Xinyuan Empire, present, the other party would have some scruples. Lu Ming didn't say much, and walked into the depths of the only temple with the gatekeeper. There was only one sacred palace, and there were many palaces that stretched as far as the eye could see. They went around many palaces and came to a small palace. "This is Great Elder Bing Mu's residence. You may enter." After the gatekeeper finished speaking, he turned around and left. Lu Ming pushed the door open and walked in. Inside the door was a small courtyard. A figure stood there with his hands behind his back facing Lu Ming. Lu Ming closed the door and arrived behind the figure. He cupped his fists and said, "Junior Lu Ming greets Senior Bing Mu." The figure nodded and turned around. It was a beautiful middle-aged woman. "I heard that during the assessment in the Xinyuan Empire, you once said that you're the young master of Autumn Moon. Is that true?" The middle-aged woman spoke. At the same time, a terrifying aura spread out and locked onto Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if he was being targeted by an incomparably terrifying existence. It was as if the other party could turn him into ashes with just a thought. Lu Ming's back was drenched in cold sweat. This was his body's subconscious reaction. This middle-aged woman was definitely an incomparably terrifying figure. Her cultivation was unfathomable. Lu Ming felt that he had been seen through. As long as there was a single lie, he had no doubt that the other party would directly obliterate him. "Senior, what I said is true. I'm from the Lu family of the Blazing Sun Empire in the Divine Wilderness Continent. Back then, when you took away Autumn Moon in the Divine Wilderness Continent, didn't you leave behind a sentence? Above the Divine Wilderness, there's only one in the world." Lu Ming replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. A trace of surprise flashed across Bing Mu's eyes. However, his gaze became colder as he said, "It seems that you're right. So, you're here to take away Autumn Moon and make her your maid again to serve you? Senior, you've misunderstood. I've never treated Autumn Moon as a maid. Autumn Moon grew up with me and I've always treated Autumn Moon as my family." Lu Ming replied. Hearing Lu Ming's words, Bing Mu's aura was retracted and a trace of warmth appeared on his face. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The other party was too terrifying. That wisp of steam made Lu Ming feel a terrifying pressure. Bing Mu looked curiously at Lu Ming and said, "I really didn't expect that you would be able to walk out of the Divine Wilderness Continent and achieve such achievements." She already knew about Lu Ming's test in the Xinyuan Empire. How could she not know that it was related to her disciple, Autumn Moon? She was really surprised that Lu Ming was able to walk out of the Divine Wilderness Continent and come to Yuan Continent. Moreover, He had achieved such shocking achievements and suppressed many of the sky prides in the ancient sun's sacred ground. It was simply unbelievable. Back then, when she took away Autumn Moon, she left behind the words only one in the divine wilderness continent. It was just a casual remark. She never expected that someone would really find her. "Senior, you're flattering me. I'm just lucky," Lu Ming said modestly. "Lucky? Hee hee. I've never heard of anyone who relied on luck to reach this step. Alright, you're here to ask me about Autumn Moon, right?" Bing Mu said. "Yes, Senior. Why did Autumn Moon forget about me? Moreover, when I mentioned what happened back then, she didn't remember it at all. What happened to Autumn Moon?" Lu Ming asked a series of questions. "Autumn Moon was robbed of her memory." Bing Mu sighed. "What? Robbed of her memory?" Lu Ming was shocked. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Who was it? What kind of means was it to rob her of her memory? That's right. He's the #1 sky pride of the Daluo Heaven sect, Luo Tsangqiong. He has the imperial body and has mastered the law of deprivation. He can deprive everything, including memory. Bing Mu said. Why? Why did he do that? Lu Ming's eyes turned colder. Because Luo Tsangqiong likes Autumn Moon and has been pursuing Autumn Moon. However, Autumn Moon already has someone in her heart. That person is you. She has always believed that you will come to her. Why would she care about Luo Tsangqiong's pursuit? Therefore, Luo Tsangqiong was so angry that he took away all of Autumn Moon's memories. All memories of the Divine Wilderness continent were taken away, leaving only her memories of Yuan continent. He wanted Autumn Moon to forget you and accept him. Bing Mu said the truth. Damn it! Lu Ming clenched his fists. A cold murderous intent spread out. He did not expect that things would turn out like this. Qiu Yu's memories were actually stolen by someone, and the reason was because Qiu Yu's heart already belonged to someone else. It was ridiculous and deserved to be killed. Senior, as Qiu Yu's master, aren't you going to avenge her after being treated like that? Lu Ming stared straight at the ice curtain, a hint of anger in his eyes. Of course I want to avenge Autumn Moon. I once went to the Daluo Heaven sect in anger, but I quit in the end. Do you know why? That's because Luo Tsangqiong's grandfather is a great emperor. It was only a legend before, but I saw it with my own eyes. Luo Tsangqiong was lawless because his grandfather was a great emperor, but no one dared to touch him. Chapter 1849. Great Emperor. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Luo Tsangqiong's grandfather was a great emperor. Great emperors were the pinnacle of the world in the absence of heavenly emperors. Great emperors, what kind of people were they? They could control the great Tao and nurture living beings in their small worlds. Their cultivation had reached an unbelievable level. No matter how strong a true emperor was, he would be slapped to death by a great emperor. Currently, in the entire Yuan Mountain, there were only a few great emperors on the surface. They could be counted on one's fingers. Each of them could shake the entire Primal Mountain with just a stomp of their feet. Legend had it that the Primal Mountain's sacred academy was founded by a few great emperors. That was the reason why all the sky prides in the Primal Mountain gathered at the Celestial City, wanting to join the sacred academy. This showed how terrifying a great emperor was. Luo Tsangqiong's grandfather was a great emperor. No wonder he dared to take away Autumn Moon's memory. Lu Ming also remembered that Ouyang Wushuang told him that Autumn Moon's master had attacked the Daluo Heaven sect for some unknown reason, but he retreated silently in the end. Obviously, it was because of Autumn Moon. I also want to avenge Autumn Moon, but if I do, the entire Soul's sacred palace will be buried with her. Bing Mu said helplessly. Luo Tsangqiong. Lu Ming squinted his eyes, revealing a terrifying murderous intent. Bing Mu did not dare to kill him, but he did. That girl, Autumn Moon, is very attached to you. Before she lost her memory, she could not forget you. She was hoping that you would come to her, or she would go to the divine wilderness to reunite with you when her cultivation is successful. I heard that during the examination of the Xinyuan Empire, Chuyue had a huge reaction when she saw you. Maybe, after being together with you for a long time, she can really recover her memories. How about you spend more time with Chuyue? Bingmu said. Thank you, senior. Lu Ming cupped his fist to express his gratitude. Don't thank me. I also hope that Autumn Moon can recover her memory. Her life is not perfect after losing her memory. It will be difficult for her to reach the peak of martial arts. Bingmu sighed. The cultivation of martial arts was all about having a clear mind. However, if one lost a part of their memories, everyone would remember it and have a knot in their heart. How could they have a clear mind? In the end, it would be difficult for them to reach the peak. Therefore, Ice Veil also hoped that Autumn Moon could regain her memories. You will stay in the one and only sanctum for the time being. I will arrange a place for you to stay and spend more time with the Autumn Moon. How about that? Bingmu said. Thank you, senior. I will do my best to help Autumn Moon regain her memories. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. After that, Bingmu asked someone to bring Lu Ming to a courtyard. Lu Ming transmitted a message to Ouyang Wushuang, telling him to go back first. He would stay in Seoul Temple for a while. Not long after, a figure stepped into the courtyard. Autumn Moon. Lu Ming's face lit up. Obviously, Bingmu had also told Autumn Moon to stay in this courtyard so that they could spend more time together. He hoped that it would make Autumn Moon remember the past. Clang! Autumn Moon waved her hand, and a snow-white scimitar appeared. It emitted a bone-piercing chill. You really know me? What you told me before, is it true? Autumn Moon said coldly. Of course it's true. Every word is true. Lu Ming said. Humph, I hope it's true. If I find out that you lied and used this reason to get close to me, I will definitely kill you. Autumn Moon said coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. It seemed that Autumn Moon thought that he was someone who purposely got close to her. However, with Autumn Moon's appearance and talent, it was normal for people to find all kinds of reasons to get close to her. Don't worry. If you find out that I lied to you, just kill me. Just like last time, I will not fight back. Lu Ming said with a smile. Only then did Autumn Moon retract her cold aura. Her frost scimitar disappeared. She looked at Lu Ming's shoulder and said apologetically, Are your injuries okay? It's fine. It doesn't matter if you cut me a few more times. Lu Ming said with a smile. Humph, you have a glib tongue. I don't think you are a good person. Autumn Moon snorted coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose. After this girl lost her memory, even her personality changed a lot. Autumn Moon, let me tell you about our past. Lu Ming said. Go ahead. Autumn Moon nodded. The two of them sat down on the stone bench in the courtyard. Lu Ming began to talk about their past in detail. Autumn Moon frowned as if she was thinking carefully. Every time he talked about something important, Autumn Moon would have some reaction. Her eyes flashed with thoughts and confusion. In the following days, Lu Ming stayed in the one and only sanctum and spent time with Autumn Moon. He often talked about the past with Autumn Moon, from when Autumn Moon was young to when Autumn Moon was taken away. They talked about everything under the sky. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Spending time together like this did have some effect. Autumn Moon said that some images would flash in her mind, but it was hard to capture them. But Lu Ming was already very happy. If this continued, Autumn Moon would remember the past sooner or later. In a hall, Yu Ji was discussing something with a few young people with a gloomy face. I don't know what Grand Elder Bingmu is thinking. She actually let Lu Ming and Junior Autumn Moon stay in the same courtyard and spend time together. Damn it! Yu Ji slammed the table and said with hatred. Lu Ming said many times in the Xinyuan Empire that he knew Junior Autumn Moon and that he was her young master. Is it true? A young man said. It's possible that junior sister Chiu Yu's heart belonged to someone else in the past. That's why Luo Zhangqiong took away her memory. It's highly possible that it's because of Lu Ming. Therefore, Grand Elder Bing Mu allowed Lu Ming to stay with Chiu Yu, hoping that Chiu Yu can regain her memory. Another young man speculated. No, we can't let this happen. I think it's better to let Luo Zhangqiong know about this. Yu Ji said with a cold light flashing in his eyes. Senior brother Yu is so smart. If Luo Zhangqiong knows about this, he will definitely kill Lu Ming. This plan of killing with a borrowed knife is really smart. A young man laughed. Ha ha ha. Yu Ji also laughed. Later, they sent someone to pass the news to Daluo Heaven Sect. Time flew and another 5 days passed. On this day, a group of people arrived at the Soul Sanctum. The leader was a young man with a cold face. He wore a purple robe and his eyes were like lightning. Behind the young man, there were several old men with strong and unfathomable aura. Normally, people who came to the Soul Sanctum would land at the bottom and climb the stairs step by step to show their respect for the Soul Sanctum. However, they directly flew up, skipped the stairs and flew towards the Soul Sanctum. Everyone, please wait. 2 gatekeepers blocked the group's path. Get out of the way. I want to see Lu Ming. The young man in the lead shouted coldly and domineeringly. Everyone, this is the Soul Sanctum. Who are you? If you want to see someone, I can pass the message on your behalf. Chapter 1850. The gatekeeper of the one and only sanctum asked cautiously, not daring to offend them. Daluo Heaven's Sect, Luo Pokong. The leading young man said faintly. You are Luo Pokong? The gatekeeper's face changed greatly. In this generation of the Daluo Heaven Sect, there were 2 kings in the younger generation. 2 peerless geniuses had mastered the principle of King Dao. One was Luo Zhangqiong, and the other was Luo Pokong. Luo Pokong's identity was second only to Luo Zhangqiong in Daluo Heaven Sect. Everyone in ancient Sun Holy Land knew him. Ha, Brother Luo, we are honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not going out to meet you. At this time, a laughter was heard. Yu Ji and several young men walked in the air. Yu Ji, is there a guy named Lu Ming in the one and only sanctum? Luo Pokong asked. Yes, he is in the one and only sanctum. Brother Luo, you are looking for him. I can take you there. Yu Ji smiled. Lead the way. Luo Pokong stepped forward. This way please. Yu Ji led Luo Pokong and others to Lu Ming's residence. At this time, Lu Ming was talking about the past with Chiu Autumn Moon in his courtyard. Suddenly, his expression changed and he looked out of the courtyard. A group of people walked in the air and stopped above the courtyard, overlooking Lu Ming and Chiu Autumn Moon. Luo Pokong. Chiu Autumn Moon's eyes narrowed. Luo Pokong glanced at Chiu Autumn Moon and then fixed his eyes on Lu Ming. He said, Boy, you are Lu Ming. Yes. Lu Ming replied. Very good. Do you know that Chiu Autumn Moon is my brother Luo Zhangqiong's woman? You dare to have any ideas about her? I think you are tired of living. Saint power surged in Luo Pokong's body, forming a strong aura and pressing toward Lu Ming. Nonsense, when am I Luo Zhangqiong's woman? Tell Luo Zhangqiong that it is impossible between him and me. Chiu Autumn Moon shouted. This caused Luo Pokong's eyes to squint as a sharp glint flickered within them. Did you hear that? Even Chiu Moon denied it, but that Luo Zhangqiong kept sticking to her. Isn't that embarrassing? Do you have any shame? Lu Ming mocked. Impudent. Who do you think you are? How dare you insult my elder brother? You must be tired of living. Luo Pokong shouted as his cold killing intent bloomed. I'm afraid you don't have that ability. Lu Ming replied indifferently. How arrogant. I'll cripple you right now. Luo Pokong's eyes were cold, and his aura grew stronger, enveloping Lu Ming. He had heard of Lu Ming's combat capability. He was able to defeat a genius of the Daluo Heaven sect with a superior celestial spiritual body. However, his battle prowess was not something that a superior heaven spiritual body could compare to. His spirit body was a high-class celestial spirit body, and he had mastered the magical laws of the Tao of Monarchs. His cultivation base was in the Great Circle of the Great Sage level, and he was virtually invincible in battle. Why would he care about Lu Ming? "Luo Pokong, if you want to fight, I'll accompany you." Chiao Moon shouted coldly as two scimitars flew out, and the magical laws of yin and yang surrounded her body. Luo Pokong's eyes narrowed slightly. Chiao Moon's talent was not weaker than his, and he was not sure if he could fight with Chiao Moon. "Lu Ming, it seems that you can only hide behind a woman." Luo Pokong sneered, revealing a mocking expression. "You don't need to use such a cheap trick to provoke me. However, I really don't need other people's help to deal with you." Lu Ming smiled faintly, stepped out, and appeared in the sky. He said, "Come up and fight. Then I'll fulfill your wish." Luo Pokong revealed a trace of joy, and his figure rose to the sky. A long spear appeared in his hand, and a terrible sharp intent burst out from the long spear. Lu Ming will never be Luo Pokong's opponent. He's doomed in this battle. Yu Ji sneered. Luo Pokong's talent was almost at the peak of the younger generation. His spiritual body and magical laws were the pinnacle of existence. In a battle of the same level, he was invincible. Even if Lu Ming mastered the law of primal chaos, his cultivation was too far behind Luo Pokong's. Although Luo Zhangqiong did not come, it would be the same if Luo Pokong came. "Die!" Luo Pokong shouted coldly, and the long spear trembled. A terrible spear light burst out, piercing towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body glowed. One by one, the light spots lit up. More than 100 sacred weapons appeared. He was holding a paramount sacred weapon in his hand. He slashed with the sword. Clang! The battle sword struck the spear light, and there was a terrible vibration. The spear light was shattered by the battle sword, but the battle sword in Lu Ming's hand also vibrated violently. What a strong penetrating power, this is the law of penetration. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. In the previous attack, he felt that there was a penetrating power in the spear light. It was terrifying, as if it could penetrate everything in the world. That was the law of penetration, a kind of law of kings. It was said to be able to penetrate everything in the world, and nothing could stop it. "Let's see how many of my spear you can block." Luo Pokong's long spear trembled, and more than 100 spear lights emerged, making a sharp whistling sound, and pierced towards Lu Ming. "Go!" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and more than 100 sacred weapons shot out from his body. Each of the sacred weapons was shrouded in the law of primal chaos, and blasted towards the spear light. Bang! 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 The fierce collision resounded through the sky. Then, more than 100 of Lu Ming's sacred weapons were all sent flying back. However, the sacred weapons were shrouded in the law of primal chaos, and blocked the opponent's attack. Then, Lu Ming took a step forward, and rushed towards Luo Pokong like lightning. Close combat was a better choice when fighting against someone who mastered the law of penetration. Lu Ming's figure approached Luo Pokong, and he activated the suppressing Hell Heaven skill, and punched out continuously. Phantoms of the suppressing Hell steel appeared, and suppressed Luo Pokong. Whoosh! 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 The long spear in Luo Pokong's hand continued to stab out, and a series of spear shadows, with a terrifying penetrating power, pierced the phantoms of the suppressing Hell steel. The phantoms of the suppressing Hell steel were pierced with holes, and they exploded in the air. Lu Ming continued to throw out punches, and phantoms of the suppressing Hell steel continued to appear. The two of them collided fiercely, and the sky was boiling, and the battle was extremely fierce. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Shattering blow. Luo Pokong seemed to have lost his patience, and with a long roar, he circulated his sacred force to the extreme, and became one with his spear, turning into a terrifying spear light and stabbed towards Lu Ming. This was a terrifying superpower, as if it could pierce through everything. The phantoms of the suppressing hell steel that Lu Ming blasted out instantly shattered, and were pierced through. Chaotic Calamity Finger. Lu Ming also used his superpower, and with a finger, the chaotic light lingered on his finger, and pressed towards his opponent. Boom! The chaotic calamity finger and the spear light collided, and a shocking storm erupted, spreading in all directions. In the end, the chaotic calamity finger collapsed, but the opponent's spear light also exploded, revealing Luo Pokong's figure, and he quickly retreated. Kill! Lu Ming shouted, and used the divine sword art. Two sword lights burst out from his eyes, and rushed into Luo Pokong's body. Luo Pokong's body trembled slightly. Then, the sacred weapons around Lu Ming once again attacked Luo Pokong. Chapter 1851. However, Lu Ming's sacred weapon was sent flying back, and then under Lu Ming's control, it continued to fly towards Luo Pokong. At the same time, Lu Ming used the hell-suppressing heaven skill, punching out continuously. Lu Ming launched a storm of attacks, and for a moment, Luo Pokong was suppressed. How is this possible? Yu Ji and the others were in disbelief. Lu Ming actually had the upper hand and began to suppress Luo Pokong. How was this possible? Lu Ming's cultivation was clearly only in the Great Sage Great Mastery, while Luo Pokong's cultivation was in the Great Sage Great Perfection. With Luo Pokong's talent, it was simply unbelievable that he was at a disadvantage when his cultivation was 2 levels higher. Was the Son of Heaven really that powerful? The battle here had long alarmed the only sacred palace. Many people were watching in the air and were surprised at this moment. Luo Pokong roared, furious, and exerted his strength to the extreme. Unfortunately, although his law of penetration was powerful, it seemed to have met its nemesis. He could not penetrate Lu Ming's law of primal chaos. Seal! At this moment, Lu Ming whispered. Then, dense runes appeared on Luo Pokong's long spear, covering Luo Pokong's body. It was one of the 9 scrolls of Array Dao, the sealing scroll. Just now, Lu Ming used the law of Array Dao on each sacred weapon. In the constant collision between the sacred weapon and Luo Pokong, the sealing scroll was quietly activated. At this moment, it burst out, and immediately sealed Luo Pokong. Lu Ming was shocked, and burst out with all his strength, struggling with all his might. A terrifying penetrating force erupted, hoping to break the seal. But Lu Ming would not give him the chance. Kill! Lu Ming shouted, and continued to operate the divine sword art. At the same time, he used the chaotic calamity finger and pointed out. Lu Ming's chaotic calamity finger was now close to 60%. Its power was amazing, and one point could shatter mountains and rivers. Boom! The chaotic calamity finger bombarded Luo Pokong's body. Luo Pokong screamed, and his body was blasted away, vomiting mouthfuls of blood. He was seriously injured. Lu Ming's eyes were cold, and he continued to step forward, attacking Luo Pokong. How dare you! An old man who came with Luo Pokong shouted and struck out with his palm. A huge palm print blasted towards Lu Ming. Quasi-Emperor! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He could only retreat with all his might to avoid this palm print. A mere great saint dares to hurt the genius of the Daluo Heaven sect. Who gave you the courage? I'll destroy you first. At this moment, another old man spoke coldly and stepped out. In the sky, an incomparably huge foot formed and stomped down on Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt as if the space around him had frozen. His body couldn't move at all. Even bubble couldn't tear open space and take him away. Martial Emperor. This old man was a martial emperor. This was the Daluo Heaven sect, extremely overbearing. In the territory of the only holy palace, a martial emperor expert directly wanted to attack Lu Ming. Just as the foot was about to land on Lu Ming, a surge of energy rippled out like a wave of water. However, the giant foot dissipated into nothingness under this surge of energy. A figure had appeared in the sky without anyone noticing. "Greetings, highest elder." People of the only holy palace saluted this person. "Master." Chiu Moon also saluted this person. This person who suddenly appeared was Bing Mu, the master of Chiu Moon. "It's too much for you, a martial emperor, to intervene in a fight between juniors. Since Luo Pokong has been defeated, you can leave now," Bing Mu said lightly. "Senior Bing Mu, this guy is wanted by Master Tsangchung himself. Today we must take him away," the martial emperor of the Daluo Heaven sect said. "Get lost!" Bing Mu suddenly shouted, and a terrifying aura pressed on the martial emperor. The martial emperor's face changed greatly, and he stepped back continuously, almost spitting out blood. He looked at Bing Mu with some fear. Bing Mu was definitely a terrifying existence. He had lived for countless years, and his cultivation was unfathomable. Otherwise, he would not have dared to go to the Daluo Heaven sect alone. If the great emperor had not intervened, Luo Tsangchung would have been killed. The man's face changed, and then he turned around and stepped out, saying, "Master Pokong, let's go." Luo Pokong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, stared at Lu Ming coldly, and said, "Lu Ming, my brother Luo Tsangchung is exploring a post-Archean relic. When he comes back, it will be your death. No one can save you." After saying this, he glanced at Bing Mu. In other words, if Luo Tsangchung came back and wanted to kill Lu Ming, even Bing Mu could not save him. Luo Tsangchung's grandfather was a great emperor. He and Luo Tsangchung were not blood brothers, so he was not as tough as Luo Tsangchung. After saying this, Luo Pokong and the people of the Daluo Heaven sect stepped into the air and left. "This guy is so lucky. He is still alive." Yu Ji was full of hatred. Suddenly, he felt someone looking at him. It was Bing Mu's eyes. "I hope there won't be a next time," Bing Mu said in a calm voice, but Yu Ji's face turned pale and cold sweat ran down his face. Obviously, Bing Mu already knew that he had told the Daluo Heaven sect about Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. He trembled and dared not to say a word. Lu Ming also glanced at Yu Ji indifferently. It was not difficult to guess from Bing Mu's words that it was Yu Ji who had told him the secret. Otherwise, how could the people of the Daluo Heaven sect know that Lu Ming was in the Soul Sanctum? "Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, come with me," Bing Mu said and then turned to leave. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon followed him to the palace where Bing Mu lived. "Lu Ming, you and Autumn Moon should leave the ancient Sun Holy Land and go to other places. Maybe it will help Autumn Moon to recover her memory," Bing Mu said. "Luo Tsangchung may not be able to kill me," Lu Ming said. He knew what Bing Mu meant. He wanted him to avoid Luo Tsangchung. "Lu Ming, although your battle strength is strong, don't underestimate the heroes in the world. Luo Tsangchung is very scary. His spirit body and law are both top-notch and he has reached the absolute saint realm. You are not his opponent now. Moreover, Luo Tsangchung knows that his grandfather is a great emperor and his grandfather is very protective. So he is lawless. Even if you are in the Soul Sanctum or the Xinyuan Empire, you will not be safe. You'd better avoid him temporarily. Also, I know an ancient prescription called the Soul Recovery Pill. It can help to recover memory, but the materials needed are too rare. Especially the three main materials, I spent a lot of effort to find one. Take it and have a look." After saying that, Bing Mu took out a jade token and handed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. It was an ancient prescription that recorded the refining method and the materials needed to refine the Soul Recovery Pill. There were dozens of materials. Among them, there were three main materials that Lu Ming had never heard of. "I've already collected all the supplementary materials needed to refine the Soul Recovery Pill. I've also collected one of the three main materials. They're all here. Take them. If you're lucky enough to collect the other two materials, you can refine the Soul Recovery Pill. Chiu Yu's memory will be very likely to be restored." Bing Mu took out a storage ring and handed it to Lu Ming. "Thank you, Senior." Chapter 1852. Lu Ming took Bing Mu's storage ring and pondered. In the Great Pill Derivation Palace, there were countless prescriptions and sacred herbs. There were also introductions of various precious materials and even their origins. Lu Ming thought that there might be information about the other two materials needed to refine the soul recovery pill in the Great Pill Derivation Palace. Let's go for a walk. Bing Mu waved his hand. Senior, I'll take my leave. Lu Ming cupped his fists. He planned to return to the Great Pill Derivation Palace to take a look. Master, take care. Autumn Moon also bowed to Bing Mu before leaving the only sacred palace with Lu Ming. Lu Ming returned to the Xinyuan Empire first. Ouyang Wushuang, Long Chen, and Huang Ling were surprised to see Lu Ming and Autumn Moon walking together. Especially Huang Ling, her gaze was complicated. After that, Lu Ming, Long Chen, and Huang Ling bid farewell to Ouyang Wushuang and took Ouyang Moli to the teleportation formation to leave the Xinyuan Empire. Not long after, they returned to the ancient moon sacred ground. Lu Ming, the sacred courtyard of Yuanshan in Celestial City will officially open in 2 months. Do you want to go? Huang Ling asked. I don't know. We'll see. Autumn Moon lost her memory. I'll see if I can find the materials to refine the soul recovery pill. If I'm not around, you guys can go to Celestial City first. Lu Ming said. He did not hide the matter of Autumn Moon from Long Chen and Huang Ling. All right. Huang Ling and Long Chen nodded and returned to Phoenix Palace and Divine Elephant Sect respectively. Lu Ming brought Autumn Moon and Ouyang Moli back to the Great Pill Derivation Palace. Junior brother, you're back. As soon as he returned to the Great Pill Derivation Palace, he bumped into Xuaningxin. Lu Ming had left Xuaningxin in the Great Pill Derivation Palace to cultivate with Uncle Kong. Senior sister, are you used to living here? Lu Ming smiled faintly. It's fine. Xuaningxin nodded and looked at Autumn Moon and Ouyang Moli curiously. Let me introduce you. Lu Ming introduced them to each other. What a powerful physique. At this moment, an aged voice rang out. Uncle Kong slowly walked out with his walking stick. His gaze landed on Ouyang Moli, and his eyes were filled with admiration. Uncle Kong, he is my new disciple, Ouyang Moli. Lu Ming introduced. Good, this is a great opportunity, good. Uncle Kong sighed. Now that Ouyang Moli's bloodline had already awakened, with Uncle Kong's cultivation, he could naturally tell that Ouyang Moli was extraordinary. Uncle Kong, I will leave Moli in the Great Dan Development Hall to cultivate in the future. I will need you to guide him. Lu Ming said. Alright, don't worry. These old bones of mine have nothing to do anyway. I can still give them some pointers. Uncle Kong revealed a smile. Then, Lu Ming brought Autumn Moon and Ouyang Moli around the Great Dan Development Hall. The interior of the Great Dan Development Hall was huge. Other than the main hall, there were many smaller halls, secret rooms, alchemy rooms, and so on. After walking around, Lu Ming arranged a room for Autumn Moon and Ouyang Moli, and then they came to a secret room. This secret room was filled with all kinds of elixir recipes, prescriptions, precious sacred herbs, and materials collected by the Great Dan Development Hall. Storage rings were placed there, and each of them contained a large number of jade plates. Lu Ming looked at them one by one. The workload was huge because there were too many jade plates. After spending half a month, Lu Ming finally found the prescription for the soul recovery pill. There are records. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As the 3 main ingredients for the soul recovery pill were very rare, there was information about the 3 main ingredients recorded in the book. For example, it was possible to find such ingredients at certain places. The 2 main materials that Lu Ming lacked were the Taisui Treasure Lotus and the Barbaric Crystal. There are 2 places where the Taisui Treasure Lotus might be found. One is the Land of Infinite Demons, and the other is the Land of Infinite Demons. Lu Ming furrowed his brows. These 2 places were not in the Yuan Mountain Land. They were too far away. They were 2 other places in the 10 lands of the Yuan continent. The records here are from countless years ago. Maybe the Taisui treasure lotus is also in the Yuan mountain land. Lu Ming thought and looked at the places where the barbaric crystal might be found. There were 3 places where the barbaric crystal might be found. 2 of them were not in the Yuan mountain land. Only one of them was in the Yuan mountain land. The ancient savage desolation region. The ancient savage desolation region to the north of the Yuan mountain land. Lu Ming muttered and decided to go to the ancient savage desolation region. After that, Lu Ming bid farewell to Uncle Kong and asked Ouyang Moli and Xuanixin to stay here to cultivate. He and Xiao Yu went to the Phoenix Palace and used the teleportation array to go to the ancient savage desolation region. However, the ancient savage desolation region was only a legendary place. It was impossible to teleport there directly. They were teleported to a sacred ground in the north of the Yuan mountain land. Then, they took a flying shuttle and flew in the direction of the legendary ancient savage desolation region. After flying for more than half a month, they arrived at a desolate mountain range. The ancient savage desolation region is a legendary place in ancient times. Is it still there? Lu Ming was a little suspicious. But since they were already here, they continued to search. A few days later, an ancient city appeared in front of them. The 2 landed outside the ancient city and saw 2 words on the city gate, Desolation City. What was the relationship between the Desolation City and the ancient savage desolation region? According to the legends, the ancient savage desolation region should be in this area. The 2 of them decided to stay in the Desolation City and investigate. The 2 of them walked into the city. This ancient city seemed to have gone through a long period of time and was filled with the vicissitudes of time. There were many people in the city. At a glance, most of them were cultivators with strong auras. There were many Sage Realm cultivators. The 2 of them found a restaurant and went to the 3rd floor. They ordered some dishes and ate to see if they could get some information. What a beautiful woman! There was a table not far from Lu Ming and Xuanixin. A young man looked at Xiao Yu with a blazing light in his eyes. She's really beautiful. I wonder which family she's from. But since she's in the Desolation City, it's her fortune to be chosen by the young master. I'll call her over and have a drink with the young master. A skinny middle-aged man smiled and flattered the young man. Sure. The young man nodded and his eyes burned with passion. In the Desolation City, he had never seen such a beautiful woman. His heart was itching. The skinny middle-aged man smiled and walked towards Lu Ming and Xuanixin. When he arrived before Lu Ming and Xiao Yu, he ignored Lu Ming and said to Xiao Yu, "Young lady, my young master invites you for a drink. Come with me." There was a commanding tone in his voice. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked away. It was as if Xiao Yu would follow him. Chapter 1853. The skinny middle-aged man took a few steps and realized that Autumn Moon did not follow him. He stopped and turned to look at Autumn Moon. His face darkened as he said coldly, "Didn't you hear what I said just now?" Autumn Moon did not seem to see the skinny middle-aged man and did not hear him. She continued to drink her wine, and so did Lu Ming. They completely ignored the skinny middle-aged man. The skinny middle-aged man's face turned colder as he said, "You probably don't know where I'm from. Let me tell you, I'm from the Ha clan. My young master is Hamodi from the Ha clan, the #1 genius in Barren City. Now, come with me." Speaking of the Ha clan, the skinny middle-aged man looked smug as if the Ha clan was very powerful. Get lost. However, the only reply he got was a cold voice from Autumn Moon. How dare you? The skinny middle-aged man shouted, emitting cold killing intent. This woman actually dared to ask him to get lost after hearing him say his name. She was courting death. Who in Barren City didn't know the Ha clan? The Ha clan was the most powerful force in Barren City. Hamodi was the #1 genius in Barren City, and his father was the #1 expert in Barren City. In Barren City, no one dared to disrespect the Ha clan. However, this woman actually asked him to get lost. If you don't want to go, I'll take you. The skinny middle-aged man shouted domineeringly. He stepped out and grabbed Autumn Moon's neck with his skinny hand. He wanted to bring Autumn Moon to Hamodi. However, before his hand could grab Autumn Moon's neck, his entire body stiffened. Then, his arm was covered with a layer of ice crystals, completely freezing his arm. Moreover, the ice crystals spread along his arm at an extremely fast speed, spreading to his entire body. The skinny middle-aged man revealed a look of fear. He quickly retreated and let out a miserable cry. His arm was like a block of ice, and it shattered. "My arm!" The skinny middle-aged man let out a shrill cry. The restaurant suddenly fell silent. The other people who were eating and drinking looked at Autumn Moon in surprise. Where did such a young expert come from? That Hago has the cultivation of bright Saint Small perfection, and he actually had one of his arms crippled unknowingly. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. This time, Hamer is going to flip out. He won't let them off. That's right. Hamodi is the #1 genius of the Desolation City. He has an inferior celestial spiritual body and his cultivation base has reached the great circle of the bright sage realm. That woman is doomed. What a waste of her beauty. Many people were discussing, but they were all very quiet, as if they were afraid that Hamodi would hear. Sure enough, the young man, Hamodi, stood up abruptly. His cold killing intent blossomed as he stepped towards Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Looks like you've never heard of my name. Do you know the consequences of harming the people of my Ha clan? Hamodi said coldly. What bullshit Ha family? It seems like you don't understand human language. Just now, I told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me? Lu Ming said indifferently. He didn't even look at Hamodi as he poured himself and Autumn Moon a cup of wine. Hearing this, Hamodi's face turned gloomy. At the same time, terrifying killing intent burst out from him as he looked coldly at Lu Ming. In the Desolation City, no one had ever dared to speak to him like this. Even the seniors of other forces had to give him face for the sake of his father. Now, a kid who came out of nowhere dared to insult the Ha clan and him. He wanted Lu Ming to regret it and kneel on the ground to beg him. The others in the restaurant were also shocked. They all thought that the young man was finished. How dare he speak to Hamodi like this? His ending would be incomparably miserable. Kid, I'll make you beg for death. Hamodi revealed a sinister smile and stepped out. Like the wind, he appeared beside Lu Ming and slapped at Lu Ming. But Lu Ming didn't seem to see it. He picked up a piece of meat with his chopsticks and put it in his mouth. Seeing that Hamodi's palm was about to hit his face, he stabbed out with his chopsticks like lightning. A shrill scream resounded through the restaurant. It was Hamodi. One of his palms had been pierced by Lu Ming's chopsticks. Pooh! Then, Lu Ming opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of minced meat. It seemed to have turned into the most terrifying hidden weapon and hit Hamodi's face. The precepts and saint energy covering his body were like tofu, unable to withstand a single blow. The minced meat pierced through Hamodi's defenses and punched numerous tiny bloody holes in his face. Hamodi frantically retreated, screaming. His face was covered in blood and looked extremely sinister. In the restaurant, the others gasped. They were shocked by Lu Ming's strength. Hamodi was the #1 prodigy of Desolate City. He had a low-class spiritual body and was at the peak of the bright divine realm. In Desolate City, no one in the younger generation was a match for Hamodi. But now, in front of Lu Ming, he was completely powerless to fight back and was being thoroughly abused by Lu Ming. And he didn't look very old, so he was definitely part of the younger generation. Could he be a prodigy from outside Desolate City? Die! I want you dead! Hamodi crazily roared. Impatient! Lu Ming coldly roared and slapped at him. A palm formed from saint energy slapped Hamodi's face and sent him flying out of the restaurant. In the restaurant, the skinny middle-aged man and Hamodi's lackeys stood there in a daze, their faces pale. All of you, scram! If there's a next time, I'll kill without mercy. Lu Ming coldly said as he swept his gaze over the skinny middle-aged man and his lackeys. The skinny middle-aged man and his lackeys hurriedly rushed out of the restaurant as if they had been pardoned. The two of you, you'd better run. The Ha clan won't let you off for treating Hamodi like this. At this moment, a white-haired old man walked over and kindly reminded them. Senior, how strong is the Ha clan? Lu Ming cupped his fists and asked. Desolate City has a total of 7 strongest factions, and the Ha clan is the strongest faction in Desolate City. That Hamodi's father is said to have reached the Boundary Emperor realm and is the #1 expert in Desolate City. The old man said. Boundary Emperor realm? Lu Ming muttered, but his expression didn't change. With Bubble's current strength and the mysteries of the space-time laws, they might be able to escape from a Boundary Emperor. As long as there were no Emperor-level experts, Lu Ming wasn't very worried. Senior, this junior has something to ask. Do you know of the ancient savage desolate region? Lu Ming asked. He had come here to find the ancient savage desolate region, so this was a good time to ask. The ancient savage desolate region? It seems like you guys are indeed outsiders from Desolate City. In Desolate City, the ancient savage desolate region is also a legend. It's said that there are countless treasures inside. The various factions in Desolate City have been searching for it, but no one has found it after countless years. The old man explained. No one has found it? Lu Ming revealed a disappointed expression. The various factions in Desolate City hadn't found it after so many years. Even if they wanted to find it, the chances were slim. The two of you should leave quickly. The Ha clan isn't far from here. The experts of the Ha clan will probably arrive soon. The old man reminded them again. It's fine. Chapter 1854. He didn't believe that the Ha family would send out an emperor-to-be so easily. If an emperor-to-be didn't come, he could easily escape. Seeing that Lu Ming and Autumn Moon didn't intend to leave, the elders sighed and turned to leave. The others in the restaurant did the same. They were afraid that they would be implicated when the Ha family arrived. After a while, only Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were left in the restaurant. The two of them ate and drank. Boom! Boom! Not long after, a terrifying aura came from outside. The entire restaurant was surrounded by the power of law and was completely blocked. Brat, get out here! Hamerdi's roar came from outside. 2 peak Supreme Saints, 2 lesser Supreme Saints, and 1 greater Supreme Saint. The corner of Lu Ming's lips curled up. The other side was quite generous. All of a sudden, they'd sent out 3 absolute saints. However, Lu Ming did not care about the initial success of the Absolute Saint realm. Even if the Absolute Saint realm was at the phenomenal success stage, it would only cause Lu Ming some trouble. Autumn Moon, how about we go out and kill someone? Lu Ming smiled. Sure. Autumn Moon was more direct. She stood up and walked out. Lu Ming touched his nose. Autumn Moon's personality seemed to have changed after she lost her memory. She wasn't so decisive before. The two of them walked out of the restaurant and saw Hamerdi leading 5 experts to seal off the area. Brat, very good. You're still here. Hamerdi looked at Lu Ming ferociously. He wanted to tear Lu Ming into pieces. Then, he looked at Autumn Moon and said coldly, Bitch, I'll make you my slave and play with you every day. When I'm done playing with you, I'll give you to my subordinates. Ha ha ha. Then, Hamerdi laughed crazily. I've said before that if there's a next time, I'll kill you. Looks like you're tired of living. Lu Ming's eyes darkened. Shameless boasting. I'll cripple you first. A middle-aged burly man stepped out. His iron-like fists were like mountains, charging toward Lu Ming. This person had the cultivation of a perfected great sage. When he threw a punch, heaven and earth roared. The fist force was extremely terrifying, about to drown Lu Ming. Many people in the distance shook their heads. They thought that Lu Ming was doomed. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Lu Ming said coldly and stepped out. Boom! Heaven and earth rumbled as 9 dragons pounced out. The dragon's roar shook the heavens. The dragon claw grabbed out and shattered the fist force of the other party. His body did not stop, and the dragon claw continued to stomp. The burly man screamed as he was torn apart by the 9 dragons and died on the spot. This was the 9 dragons' heaven stomp. Lu Ming had not used it for a long time. At his current realm, the 9 dragons' heaven stomp was no longer powerful enough. However, it was more than enough to deal with an ordinary perfected great sage. The entire place was silent and he was so young. It was too terrifying. Hamodi was known as the #1 genius in Barren City. But compared to Lu Ming, he was nothing. Hamodi was also stunned, revealing a horrified expression. Given Lu Ming's ability, it would have been a piece of cake for him to kill him previously. But then, his heart was filled with stronger killing intent and jealousy. In the past, he had dominated the younger generation of Barren City and was very proud. He thought that not many geniuses in the world could compare to him. Now that he saw how powerful Lu Ming was, he was jealous. Kill him for me!" Hamodi shouted. Swoosh! A figure rushed out from behind Hamodi. A terrifying aura burst out and pressed down on Lu Ming. It was an absolute saint. An absolute saint was shockingly powerful. A great saint could kill a great saint with a flip of his hand. In Sangzhou, an absolute saint was an overlord. There were only a few absolute saints in a top force. Light spots lit up on Lu Ming's body and sacred weapons appeared one by one. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. The divine sword art burst out and rushed into the opponent's body. The opponent's body trembled slightly. Lu Ming stepped into the void, holding a holy weapon battle sword in his hand and slashing out. A wisp of sword light tore through space as if it was going to split the heavens and the earth apart. Its might was so formidable that it caused the expressions of everyone to change. The absolute saint expert's expression changed drastically. He unleashed all his strength and shot out beams of divine light toward Lu Ming. But the sword slashed through and all the divine light was cut open. The sword didn't stop and continued to slash down. With a blood-curdling scream, half of the absolute sage's body was chopped off by Lu Ming. The man was terrified and frantically retreated, trying to escape. Do you think you can escape? Lu Ming attacked coldly. The sword in his hand shot out and pierced the man's head, destroying his soul. The absolute saint had fallen. Hiss! Everyone gasped and felt their scalps go numb. Lu Ming's combat power was terrifying. Even an absolute saint was killed easily. Was he still human? Hamodi was completely stunned. His eyes widened as he looked at this scene in disbelief. He felt like he was dreaming. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and continued to move forward. He used the chaotic finger of disaster and pointed out. A huge chaotic finger of disaster pointed at another absolute saint. When Lu Ming was a lower-tier supreme saint, he could defeat ordinary lower-tier absolute saints. Now that he was a greater-tier supreme saint, it wasn't too difficult for him to kill a lower-tier absolute saint. Oh no! Lu Ming killed a lower-tier absolute saint in a few moves. The absolute saint didn't dare to take it head-on. He quickly retreated, trying to avoid Lu Ming's attack. But Qiu Yu flashed out. The law of yin and yang burst out. 2 scimitars flew out, forming a terrifying destructive power that enveloped the absolute saint. The absolute saint didn't even have the chance to scream before he was turned into ashes by the destructive power. Another absolute saint had died. And this time, he was killed by Qiu Yu. Run! Run! The only absolute saint in the greater tier yelled. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He wrapped Hamodi in his saint power and fled madly into the distance. You think you can come and go as you wish? It's not that easy. Lu Ming said coldly. He turned into a ray of light and chased after Hamodi. With Hamodi's character, he definitely wouldn't let this go. There would be endless trouble in the future. It was better to just kill him. Qiu Yu followed closely behind. Many people were dumbfounded. They felt like they were in a dream. At first, Hamodi was aggressive. He brought 3 absolute saints with him, wanting to kill Lu Ming and capture Qiu Yu. But now, 2 of the 3 absolute saints were dead. The remaining one was running away with Hamodi. This result was out of everyone's expectations. Let's go and see. Many people followed closely behind them. They wanted to see the final result. What would happen to Hamodi, the lawless lord of Barren City? The absolute saint in the greater tier fled with Hamodi at an astonishing speed. He was like a ray of light flashing across the sky above Barren City. Damn it, damn it! I must ask my father to kill them. No, I must make them beg for death. Chapter 1855. Hamodi was not only born into a good family, but also had a father who was the #1 expert in Barren City. His talent was also amazing. He had an inferior heavenly spiritual body and had the potential to become an emperor. He was known as the only one who had the potential to become an emperor in Barren City for hundreds of thousands of years. With such a status and talent, his journey had been smooth sailing. Since he was young, he could get whatever he wanted. This time, not only did Autumn Moon disobey him, but Lu Ming also dared to hurt him, humiliate him, and even kill so many experts of the Ha family. He must make Lu Ming regret. But the next moment, he screamed in horror, "Hurry up! Speed up!" At this moment, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon's speed suddenly increased, as if they were traveling through the void. Their speed was amazing, and they were approaching them at an extremely fast speed. Lu Ming and Qiu Yu's sudden increase in speed was naturally due to bubbles. Bubble used the law of time and space to envelop them, and they seemed to be able to travel through the void. Hurry up! We're almost at the Ha family. Hurry up! Hamodi kept yelling, and his body was trembling in fear. Master, you go first. I'll hold them off. The expert in the Great Completion Absolute Saint Realm said, and then threw Hamodi forward. He stopped, and a saber appeared in his hand. He slashed dozens of times at Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Hamodi, on the other hand, was running forward crazily. They were not far from the Ha family's residence. As long as they reached the Ha family, his life would be saved. Let's work together and kill him. Lu Ming said. Chirp chirp, Bubble opened her mouth and spat out a transparent bubble, which then disappeared. The next moment, it suddenly appeared on the expert in the Great Completion Absolute Saint Realm, enveloping him. Chaotic Calamity Finger. Lu Ming pointed a finger, and a huge finger attacked the expert. Autumn Moon's 2 scimitars spun rapidly, turning into a destructive storm, and swept towards the opponent. There was no suspense. Lu Ming, Bubble, and Autumn Moon were all capable of fighting against an ordinary Great Perfection Paragon Saint. They might even be able to kill them. Now that the 3 of them were working together, their power was even more terrifying. The Absolute Saint in the Great Perfection Realm didn't even have time to scream before he was killed by the attacks of the 3 of them. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon rushed past without stopping. The people who followed from afar were dumbfounded. The shock in their hearts was unimaginable. The great accomplishment of the Absolute Saint Realm was insta-killed. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon's cultivation bases were clearly only in the Supreme Saint Realm. These people are definitely outstanding geniuses from outside Desolate City. Interesting. We're almost at the Ha clan's residence. I wonder what's the result. Many people followed him, wanting to find out what was going on. At the front, Hamodi almost peed his pants when he saw that the saint expert had been killed in an instant. He gathered all his strength and charged forward. A magnificent residence appeared in front of him. Hamodi was overjoyed. He had arrived at the Ha clan's residence. Once he was there, he would be safe. Next, it was time for his crazy revenge. However, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. They were charging at him at an alarming speed. Hamodi was almost scared to death. As he charged forward, he shouted, "Help! Help! Father, help! At the moment, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were approaching Hamodi rapidly. Whoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand, and an absolute saint weapon pierced through the void toward Hamodi. Hamodi wanted to dodge in fear, but he realized that he couldn't. His strength was too weak compared to Lu Ming's. How dare you! You're courting death. At this moment, there was a loud roar from the Ha family's mansion. A ray of light shot out and collided with the absolute sacred weapon that Lu Ming had brandished, sending it flying. Then, a figure appeared in a flash, and a terrifying aura bloomed in all directions. Father! Hamodi was overjoyed. It was a middle-aged man in a brocade robe. He looked similar to Hamodi. He was Hamodi's father, Ha Zheng, the #1 expert of the barren city, a quasi-emperor expert. Ha Zheng is here. Those two young men and women are in danger. The people following behind him all stopped in their tracks, staying far away from him. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon also stopped. Father, these two are too bold. They killed several elders. Hurry up and kill them. No, leave that woman alive. I want her to suffer a fate worse than death. Hamodi shouted. Seeing Ha Zheng, Hamodi was relieved. He knew that he was fine. Next, he would take revenge crazily. Lu Ming and the others had put him in such a difficult position. They deserved to be cut into pieces. They deserved to be killed. Ha Zheng's gaze was very cold. He glanced at Lu Ming and Autumn Moon coldly. Let's go. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Autumn Moon. The two moved, turning into two phantoms and retreating. You want to leave? Die! Ha Zheng shouted and threw out a punch. A vast fist energy pierced through the void and blasted toward Lu Ming and the others. We can't block it. Let's go. Lu Ming was about to ask Bubbles to open the space-time tunnel and leave. But at that moment, a 1,000-meter-long sword light appeared and slashed toward Ha Zheng's fist light. There was a loud explosion, and the sword light and fist light disappeared at the same time. Lu Ming was stunned. He did not leave and stopped in the distance. Ha Zheng's gaze shifted to the sky, where a white-haired old man had appeared. The elder carried a long sword on his back and looked like an immortal. It's the head of the Mo clan. Someone exclaimed. The Mo clan was one of the 7 most powerful forces in Barren City. The head of the Mo clan was a complete saint. Why did he help Lu Ming to block Ha Zheng's attack? Not only the others, but even Lu Ming himself was confused. He did not know anyone in Barren City when he had just arrived. Mo Qingshan, do you know those two? Ha Zheng asked in a deep voice. I don't know them. Mo Qingshan shook his head. You don't know them and you want to stop me? It seems like you're tired of living. Ha Zheng's eyes flashed with killing intent. Ha Zheng, you're too arrogant. Right at this moment, a deep voice sounded from another direction, and then a tall and sturdy middle-aged man appeared there. At the same time, other figures appeared in other directions. Including Mo Qingshan, there were 6 figures in total. What's going on? The heads of the 6 forces. The heads of the 6 forces are all here. Is it because of that young man? Impossible. What's going on? Seeing these 6 silhouettes, the crowd burst into a discussion. The 6 of them were the heads of the other 6 forces in Barren City. They were all complete saints. Why would they all appear at the same time? Many people were confused. Ha Zheng's face darkened. Why did the 6 of you come to my Ha clan together? Is it because of those 2? Then, he looked toward Lu Ming and Xiao Yu. I've already said that we don't know those 2. We're here for you. Chapter 1856. Looking for me? What's the matter? Ha Zheng asked. Of course, it's because of the ancient desolate region. Mo Qingshan continued. Many people were shocked by these words. The ancient desolate region was only a legend in the desolate city. No one had been able to find it for countless years. Could it be that Ha Zheng had some clues? Lu Ming was also shocked. Didn't he come here to find the ancient desolate region and the barbarian crystals? Ha ha ha, the ancient desolate region? I'm afraid you found the wrong person. How would I know where the ancient desolate region is? Ha Zheng laughed loudly. Ha Zheng, are you still trying to hide it? You've already entered the ancient desolate region a few months ago. Mo Qingshan's words shocked everyone present. Ha Zheng had entered the ancient desolate region. Was that true? Everyone looked at Ha Zheng. Ha Zheng's face was extremely ugly, as gloomy as a piece of charcoal. It seems like there's a traitor in my Ha clan. Ha Zheng enunciated each word coldly. But the meaning behind his words was equivalent to admitting it. Many people's eyes flashed with a blazing light. Did the ancient desolate region really exist in this world? Rumor had it that there were countless treasures in the ancient desolate region. Ha Zheng, tell us the entrance to the ancient desolate region. A burly man spoke. This person was the Pang clan's patriarch. He held a thick iron rod in his hand and waved it around, making whooshing sounds. The other patriarchs also erupted with powerful auras and locked onto Ha Zheng. You want to threaten me? You're still a little lacking. Ha Zheng's aura grew stronger and stronger as a river surrounded his body. That was the river of laws. This was the symbol of a quasi-emperor. Only by completely controlling a law would one be able to form a river of laws. Is that so? I'd like to give it a try. The Pang clan's patriarch's body swelled and his aura surged. The iron rod in his hand expanded and turned into a giant rod that pressed down on Ha Zheng with the force of Mount Tai. Ha Zheng's face sank. The river of laws danced and his fist light was shocking as he punched out. Boom! The terrifying explosion caused the entire desolate city to tremble. The gigantic staff was sent flying by Ha Zheng, but Ha Zheng himself was also forced to retreat, causing the void to tremble. Many people were flabbergasted and in disbelief. Ha Zheng was actually forced back. That was a boundary emperor. He had mastered a complete law and was surrounded by a river of law. His battle prowess was astonishing. He could easily crush a peak stage absolute saint. But now, Ha Zheng had been forced back by a peak stage absolute saint. Ha ha ha, Ha Zheng, I heard that you were heavily injured in the ancient desolate region. So it is true. With your current strength, how can you fight against the six of us? The head of the Pang family laughed loudly. Many people suddenly realized that Ha Zheng was injured. No wonder his battle prowess was greatly reduced. We originally wanted to take action a few days later, but since you have appeared today, we might as well take action. Ha Zheng, I advise you to tell us where the entrance to the ancient savage domain is. Otherwise, the Ha clan will disappear from Desolate City. The leader of another force also spoke coldly. Ha Zheng's expression was extremely gloomy. There was a traitor in his Ha clan, and this traitor had a lot of power. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known that he had entered the ancient savage realm and was injured. If he was at his peak, he wouldn't be afraid even if the leaders of the six major forces joined forces. But now that he had yet to recover from his injuries, he wasn't a match for the leaders of the six major forces. Do you really want to go to the ancient savage domain? Let me tell you, the ancient savage domain is very dangerous. I was injured before I even went in. Ha Zheng said. You don't have to worry about that. Just tell us where the entrance to the ancient savage domain is. Mo Qingshan said. Which martial Dao expert hadn't walked through mountains of corpses and seas of blood? Why would they be afraid of danger? Moreover, danger was often accompanied by opportunity. If one could obtain it, they would soar into the sky. I can tell you where the entrance to the ancient savage domain is, but you have to promise me one thing. Killing intent flashed across Ha Zheng's eyes. What is it? Mo Qingshan asked. Kill those two bastards for me. Ha Zheng looked at Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Mo Qingshan, the head of the Pang family, and the others also looked at Lu Ming. It's just two juniors. Simple. Mo Qingshan's eyes emitted a cold light as a powerful aura spread toward Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Lu Ming's face changed slightly as he sent a voice transmission to Autumn Moon and Bubbles. Whoosh! At this moment, a sword radiance shot out from Mo Qingshan's hand and slashed toward Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. A peak saint had high cultivation and powerful combat strength. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon weren't a match for him. Retreat! Lu Ming shouted as he and Autumn Moon retreated quickly. Do you think you can escape from my hands? Kill them! Mo Qingshan shouted as he unsheathed the sword on his back. It turned into a boundless sword radiance that covered the sky and shrouded Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon couldn't avoid it. Many people sighed. In the end, these two talented youths were going to fall here. Although they were talented, they were no match for an old monster like the head of the Mo family. The boundless sword radiance shrouded Lu Ming and Autumn Moon, turning them into a beehive. However, there wasn't a trace of blood. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon's bodies shattered like illusions. In the next moment, Lu Ming and Autumn Moon suddenly appeared beside Hamodi. Oh no! Stop! Ha Zheng's face changed drastically as he roared. He wanted to stop them, but it was too late. Lu Ming grabbed Hamodi's neck and held him in his hands. If you attack, I'll kill him. Lu Ming's cold voice could be heard and Ha Zheng stopped in his tracks. Let him go, or you'll die a horrible death. Ha Zheng said coldly. He was too careless. He didn't expect that not only did Lu Ming not escape, but he even dared to capture Hamodi. He was simply audacious. Moreover, Lu Ming and the others were too strange. They could suddenly appear beside Hamodi, catching him off guard. That was the law of spacetime. Ha Zheng looked at Bubbles with astonishment in his eyes. Is that so? Lu Ming exerted force in his palm, and sacred power surged into Hamodi's body, causing Hamodi to scream miserably. Stop! Ha Zheng roared. Ha Zheng, should we kill these two little bastards? Mo Qingshan asked with a cold face. He was very unhappy. Not only did Lu Ming and Autumn Moon escape from his hands, but they also took control of Hamodi, making him lose face. Kill your mother's ass. Ha Zheng cursed. Hamodi was already in Lu Ming's hands. How could they kill him? Did they want to kill Hamodi? Watch your words. Mo Qingshan said with a cold face. Kid, let go of Hamodi, and I'll let you go. Ha Zheng stared at Lu Ming. Let him go. If you let us enter the ancient wild region, I'll naturally let him go. Chapter 1857. With Lu Ming holding Hamodi, Ha Zheng was afraid of breaking the vases. The other faction leaders naturally did not dare to touch Lu Ming's group. You want to enter the ancient savage desolate region? Ha Zheng asked with a sullen expression. That's right. Lu Ming nodded. If not for the news of the ancient savage desolate region, Lu Ming would have asked Bubble to open a space-time passage and leave. Okay, I agree to let you in. Let Hamodi go now. Ha Zheng said with a sharp glint in his eyes. As long as Lu Ming let Hamodi go, he would tear Lu Ming to pieces. Do you think I'm stupid? Once I enter the ancient savage desolate region, I will naturally let him go. If I let him go now, I'll be courting death. Lu Ming sneered. Ha Zheng said with a sullen expression, the ancient savage desolate region is not a place you can enter whenever you want. A month later is the best opportunity. You can't enter now. Then I'll wait for a month. A month later, I'll come back here to find you. Lu Ming carried Hamodi and quickly retreated with Autumn Moon, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Ha Zheng was afraid of breaking the vases and did not dare to chase. Ha Zheng, we'll meet in a month. Mo Qingshan said. After he finished speaking, his figure vanished as well. Following which, the other faction leaders also left. Ha Zheng snorted and returned to the Ha family residence. The news that Ha Zheng knew about the ancient savage desolate region spread like a whirlwind through the entire desolate city, causing a huge uproar. Countless people were looking forward to a month later. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon had already left the desolate city and came to a remote place where they placed Himodi in the mountain and river diagram. He and Autumn Moon found a random place to cultivate in seclusion and wait for a month. Cultivation knew no time, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, outside the Ha clan's residence, there was a sea of people. At a glance, it was densely packed with people. "The Mo family is here," someone said. In the distance, a group of people flew over. There were hundreds of them. Mo Qingshan was at the front. Behind him were all strong cultivators from the Mo clan. There were at least 10 absolute saints. Scram! The Mo family was domineering and domineering. Their arrival here made many people back off, emptying out a large region. However, no one dared to voice their anger. The Mo clan was one of the 7 most powerful clans in the Desolation City. No one else could compete with them. After the Mo clan, the other 5 forces arrived one after another. Each of them brought a large number of experts. "Where is Ha Zheng?" Mo Qingshan stared into the depths of the Ha clan's residence. His voice spread far and wide. "Don't worry, I won't leave." In the depths of the Ha family's residence, Ha Zheng stepped out into the air. "A month has passed. Ha Zheng, let's go," Mo Qingshan said. "Don't worry, someone hasn't arrived yet," Ha Zheng said. Everyone knew that Ha Zheng was talking about Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, figures flashed over from afar. It was Lu Ming and Autumn Moon. "Kid, where's my son, Modi?" Ha Zheng looked at Lu Ming. With a thought, Lu Ming raised Modi, who was in Lu Ming's hand, and said, "Don't worry, I'll let him go after we enter the ancient savage desolate region." Seeing that Modi was fine, Ha Zheng heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Okay, let's go." "Wait a minute, I feel that there are too many people here. Some random people don't even have the right to enter the ancient savage desolate region." Mo Qingshan's eyes were as sharp as a sword as he scanned the surroundings. "That's right. The 7 major forces will enter the ancient savage desolate region. Random people, scram!" The Pang family head said. "What? You want us to leave? You're too domineering." "That's right. Those who heard about the ancient savage desolate region have a share. You'll only incur the wrath of the crowd. We have so many people, and we're not afraid of you." Instantly, there was an uproar as many people shouted in dissatisfaction. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, a terrifying sword light bloomed from Mo Qingshan's hand and shot into the crowd. Screams rang out as more than a dozen experts were killed by the sword light. The crowd was shocked as they frantically retreated. Their eyes were filled with fear. "This is the outcome of anyone who follows us." Mo Qingshan revealed a sinister smile. The experts of the other forces also looked around with unfriendly gazes. The others had ugly expressions, but they didn't dare to say anything. The difference in strength was too great, and they would only be courting death if they said anything. "We can leave now." Mo Qingshan glanced at Ha Zheng. "Let's go." Ha Zheng nodded and stepped forward. "Ha Zheng, are you the only one from the Ha family going?" Mo Qingshan asked. "I alone am enough." Ha Zheng placed his hands behind his back and had the bearing of an expert. Mo Qingshan and the leaders of the other forces had doubts in their eyes, but they didn't say anything. Immediately, the experts of the 6 major forces, as well as Lu Ming and Autumn Moon, followed Ha Zheng and left the desolate city. The others didn't dare to follow and could only watch. After flying for an hour, they stopped at a calm lake. "The entrance to the ancient wilderness region is here?" Mo Qingshan asked doubtfully. "It's just not time yet. I spent over 1,000 years to find some clues in an ancient book. Just wait." After Ha Zheng finished speaking, he stood above the lake and closed his eyes to rest. The others could only wait quietly. Soon, the sun set and the afterglow shone on the land. Splash! The calm surface of the lake suddenly became turbulent. All kinds of fish jumped on the surface of the lake. Go to the bottom of the lake. Ha Jing screamed and rushed to the bottom of the lake. The others quickly followed him. Once they reached the bottom of the lake, they saw a pitch-black whirlpool. Many people's eyes lit up. Was this the entrance to the ancient wilderness region? Ha Jing rushed to the entrance of the ancient wilderness region first, followed by the others. Lu Ming followed the crowd and rushed to the entrance. In the next moment, Lu Ming realized that he was standing on a large grassland. At a glance, all he could see was an endless grassland. It was wide and majestic, giving off an ancient feeling. Around him, Ha Zhang and the experts of the 6 major forces were all there. Above their heads, the whirlpool hung in the air like a pitch-black moon. Was this the ancient wilderness region? Many people looked around. Kid, can you give me my son now? Ha Zheng looked at Lu Ming. What's the hurry? Lu Ming carried Hamodi and stepped out with Qiu Yu, flying into the distance. What are you doing? Put Hamodi down. Ha Zheng shouted with a trace of anxiety in his eyes. If I let him go now, who knows if you will kill me? Of course, I have to go further away. Lu Ming's voice came as they flew further and further away. Is this the ancient wilderness region? Let's go. Let's go too. The other 6 forces flew into the distance as if they were afraid that their treasures would be taken away.